How are you guys doing? Today is Sunday, September 26th, 2021. I'm James Sims, and for this episode of The Elite, I'm going to review the Elite matchups and performances from yesterday, Saturday, September 25th. And of course, I'm going to preview everything that's going on today as we navigate through the world of sports one day at a time. Taking a look at where we are in the year, today will be the only day for the second round of the WNBA playoffs. As coming into today's matchup, the very first round will be taking place on ABC as the 4th seed Seattle Storm are going to host the 5th seed Phoenix Mercury. Phoenix Mercury making it to this round after beating the 8th seed New York Liberty by a point. And then the second game that's going to take place will take place at 5 o'clock on ESPN2 as the Minnesota Lynx, who are holding the 3 seed, are going to host the Chicago Sky. The Chicago Sky made it to this round after beating the 7th seed Dallas Wings by 17 points. And of course, the winner of these two matchups will face off in a best-of-5 semifinal round to decide who will go to the WNBA finals. So that's what's going on with the NBA. Yesterday was the very first day of the hockey season as the St. Louis Blues left wing, James Neal, was able to get a hat trick in the very first day of the season. I am going to cover hockey more as it gets to the playoffs because I don't know hockey as well. So that's how I'm going to go with hockey in this respect. And then taking a look out to what was going on yesterday, starting with college football, and just going down the list in terms of the ranked opponents that played. Starting with the number 1 seed in the land, the first ranked Alabama Crimson Tide hosted unranked Southern Mississippi. Alabama was able to win this game 63-14. They outscored Southern Miss 42-7 in the first half and then 21-7 in the second half. For the Alabama Crimson Tide, their leading passer was their quarterback, Bryce Young. He completed 20 of his 22 passes, throwing for 313 yards, 5 touchdowns, and a pick. Their leading rusher, Roydell Williams, had 110 yards on 11 carries and a touchdown. Jace McClellan would end up with 97 yards off of 12 carries as well. Their leading receiver would end up with 105 yards on 5 receptions and a touchdown. That was Jaleel Billingsley. Their tight end, Cameron Latu, had 57 yards on 3 receptions and 2 touchdowns. On the defensive side of the ball, Jordan Battle led the team in tackles as he would go on to have 7 of them. The team finished with a couple sacks. DeMarco Helams would finish with an interception for the team as well, as he also finished with 5 tackles. With this win, Alabama is now 4-0 to start their season, and with this loss, Southern Miss is now 1-3 to start their season. Jumping to the second-ranked team in the nation, they faced the 2nd seed Georgia Bulldogs, win to Vanderbilt, and were able to beat the Commodores 62-0 to shut them out. For Georgia, their leading passer was Stetson Bennett. He threw for 151 yards, a touchdown, and a pick. He also ran for 37 yards on the ground. That would be 188 total yards of offense. Through the air, their leading receiver was Brock Bowers. He had 69 yards on 4 receptions and 2 touchdowns. On the defensive side of the ball for Georgia, no one on the team would have more than 3 tackles. Christopher Smith would end up with an interception for the team, as same with Kamari Lassiter. With this win, the 2nd seed Bulldogs are now 4-0 to start their season. They are 2-0 in the SEC. With this loss, unranked Vanderbilt is now 1-3 to start their season. They are 0-1 in the SEC. Jumping out to the 3rd best team in the nation, the 3rd team Oregon Ducks hosted the unranked Arizona Wildcats. The Ducks were able to pull off a 41-19 win, outscoring Arizona 24-10 in the first half. And then they would score 17 points in the 4th quarter to, of course, secure their first Pac-12 win of the season. For the 3rd seed Ducks, their leading passer, Anthony Brown, would throw for 206 yards and 3 touchdowns. He also ran for 41 yards. That's 247 total yards of offense. Their leading rusher, Travis Dye, had 92 yards off of 5 carries. Their leading receiver, Jalen Redd, had 63 yards on only 1 reception, and that reception was a touchdown. On the defensive side of the ball, Noah Sewell would have 14 tackles, leading both teams for the day. Bennett Williams would go on to have a pretty good defensive day. He would be second on the team in tackles with 8 of them, and he had 2 picks. one of them being an interception. Also, the team would end up with 5 interceptions for the day, and with this win, the third seed Oregon Ducks are now 4-0 to start their season. They are 1-0 to start their Pac-12 season. With this loss, unranked Arizona is 0-4 as they are now 0-1 to start their Pac-12 season. Jumping out to the 4th ranked team in the nation, the Oklahoma Sooners hosted the unranked West Virginia Mountaineers. The Oklahoma Sooners would end up beating West Virginia thanks to their field goal that they would score in the last second. They would score 2 field goals in the fourth quarter to tie the game up and win the game. And like I said, in the games that would really kind of decide everything. For Oklahoma, their leading passer, Spencer Rattler, would throw for 256 yards, a touchdown, and a pick. Through the air, their leading receiver was Michael Woods II. He had 86 yards on 8 receptions. Brian Asamoah and Pat Fields would finish with 9 tackles each, as the team had a sack and an interception. De'Laren Turner-Yell would finish with 8 tackles for the day, as he would finish with the team's only interception. With this win, 4th-ranked Oklahoma is 4-0 to start their season. With this loss, they are 1-0 in the conference. With this loss, West Virginia is now 2-2, as they are now 0-1 to start their Big 10 season, or Big 12 season. Jumping out to 5th-ranked Iowa, the Iowa Hawkeyes hosted the unranked Colorado State Rams. Hawkeyes were able to pull off a 24-14 win. For the Hawkeyes, their quarterback Spencer Petras would throw for 224 yards, 2 touchdowns, and a pick. Their leading rusher Tyler Goodson had 57 yards on 18 carries. Through the air, Iowa's leading receiver was Keegan Johnson. He had 92 yards off of 2 receptions, as he would finish with a touchdown as well. On the defensive side of the ball, Jack Campbell would lead the team in tackles, as he had 18 of them. Seth Benson would finish with 11. With this win, 5th-ranked Iowa is now 4-0 to start their season. And with this loss, unranked Colorado State is 1-3 to start their season. Jumping to the 6th-ranked team in the nation, the Penn State Nittany Lions hosted the unranked Villanova Wildcats, and they were able to give Villanova their first loss of the season. Penn State would win this game 38-17. They would outscore Villanova 24-0 in the middle 2 quarters, which would prove to be the difference in this one. For Penn State, their starting quarterback Sean Clifford would throw for 401 yards, 4 touchdowns, and a pick. And like I said, he would be the player of the game for Penn State. Through the air, their leading receiver was Parker Washington. He had 148 yards off 5 carries and 2 touchdowns. Jahan Dotson would finish with 117 yards off 7 receptions and a touchdown. Keandre Lambert-Smith would have 88 yards on 2 receptions, as one of his 2 receptions was a touchdown. On the defensive side of the ball, Penn State would finish with 3 sacks, as Jair Brown would finish with 3 tackles and the team's only interception. With this win, the 6th-ranked Penn State Nittany Lions are now 4-0 to start their season. And with this loss, Villanova from within the state is now 3-1 to start their season. Jumping to the 7th-ranked team in the nation, the 7th-ranked Texas A&M Aggies went to Arkansas to face off against the 16th-ranked Razorbacks. And the highest-ranked top 25 matchup of the weekend, the Arkansas Razorbacks would end up beating the Aggies 20-10. The difference was the first half, where Arkansas would outscore Texas A&M 17-3. For the 7th-ranked Aggies, their quarterback Zach Calzada would throw for 151 yards and a pick. Their leading rusher was Isaiah Spiller. He had 95 yards on 12 carries and a touchdown. Spiller also had 26 yards through the air. That's 121 total yards of offense. On the defensive side of the ball for Texas A&M, Aaron Hansford and Antonio Johnson led the team in tackles, as Hansford would finish with a sack on the day. And then Devin Akane would finish with the team's only he did not finish with interception. I misread that. But looking at how the 16th seed Arkansas Razorbacks fared, their starting quarterback KJ Jefferson would throw for 212 yards and 2 touchdowns. He ran for 50 yards as well, so that's 262 total yards of offense. Their leading rusher Traylon Smith would finish with 82 yards on 17 carries. Their leading receiver, Treylon Burks, would finish with 167 yards off 6 receptions and a touchdown. He also had a carry for 14 yards. That's 181 total yards of offense. On the defensive side of the ball, Bumper Poole would lead the team in tackles as he would have 8 of them on the day. Monteric Brown would have the only interception of the day as he also had 6 tackles with them. And Trey Williams would finish with 4 tackles. 2 of his tackles ended up being sacks on the day on the season. With this win, Arkansas is now 4-0 to start their season. They are now 1-0 in the SEC. And with this loss, 7th-ranked Texas A&M is 3-1 as they now are 0-1 to start their SEC season. Jumping out to the 9th team in the nation, the Clemson Tigers went to face off against the unranked NC State Wolfpack and Raleigh. NC State would end up beating Clemson in overtime. They would score 2 touchdowns, and the winner would be scored off of a 22-yard pass from Devin Leary to Devin Carter. Looking at how the 9-seed Clemson Tigers fared, their starting quarterback, DJ Uiagalelei, would throw for 111 yards, 2 touchdowns, and a pick. He also ran for 63 yards as 174 total yards of offense. Their leading receiver, Justin Ross, had 77 yards on 8 receptions as he had both of Clemson's receiving touchdowns. On the defensive side of the ball, Balen Spector would finish with 19 tackles on the day for Clemson. Andrew Makuba and R.J. Mickens would finish with double-digit tackles as well. Xavier Thomas would have 5 tackles on the day as he had 2 of Clemson's 3 sacks. And for the unranked NC State Wolfpack, their starting quarterback, Devin Leary, would throw for 238 yards and 4 touchdowns. Their leading rusher, Ricky Person Jr., had 91 yards on 21 carries for the day. He had 16 yards through the air as that's 107 total yards of offense for NC State. And then their leading receiver was Emeka Emezie. He would have 116 yards on 14 receptions and a touchdown. On the defensive side of the ball, Isaiah Moore had 8 tackles. Corey Durden had 6 tackles for the day as he had a sack and a half. With this win, unranked NC State is now 3-1 to start their season. They are 1-0 in the ACC. With this loss, 9th-ranked Clemson is 2-2. They are now 1-1 in the ACC. Looking out to how the 10th-ranked team in the nation fared, the Ohio State Buckeyes hosted the unranked Akron Zips. The Buckeyes would end up beating Akron 59-7. Akron would score their only touchdown in the first quarter of the game. Ohio State would score double digits in the first 3 quarters. For the 10th-ranked Buckeyes, their starting quarterback, Kyle McCord, would throw for 319 yards, 2 touchdowns, and a pick. Their leading rusher, Travion Henderson, had 93 yards on 8 carries and 2 touchdowns. Their other leading rusher, Master Teague, would go on to finish with 71 yards on 8 carries as he had 2 touchdowns as well. He also had 5 yards through the air. That's 76 total yards of offense. On the Buckeyes defense, their leading tackler, Tyleik Williams, had 6 on the day as he had 2 sacks. Haskell Garrett would finish with 5 tackles and 3 sacks as well. Ohio State would have a total of 10 sacks on the day. Ronnie Hickman would finish with 3 tackles and a pick 6, and then Cody Simon would finish with the other interception of the day for Ohio State. With this win, the 10th-ranked Buckeyes are now 3-1 to start their season, and with this loss, the unranked Akron Zips are 1-3 to start theirs. Jumping out to the 11th-ranked team in the nation, the Florida Gators hosted the unranked Tennessee Volunteers. Florida was able to beat Tennessee 38-14. In the first half, Tennessee would score both their touchdowns. Florida would keep the lead 17-14, and then Florida would outscore Tennessee 21-0 in the second half to run away with this. For the 11th-ranked Gators, their starting quarterback, Emory Jones, threw for 209 yards and 2 touchdowns. He also ran for 144 yards. That would give him a total of 353 total yards of offense. Their leading receiver, Justin Shorter, had 54 yards on 3 receptions. They would go on to spread the love across their offense. On the defensive side of the ball, Trey Dean had 11 tackles on the day. The team would finish with 3 sacks on the day. With this win, 11th-ranked Florida is 3-1 to start their season, and they are 1-1 in the SEC. With this loss, the unranked Tennessee Volunteers are 2-2 as they are 0-1 to start their SEC season. Jumping out to the 12th-ranked team in the nation, the 12th-ranked Fighting Irish went to Madison to face off against the 18th seed Wisconsin Badgers. Notre Dame would end up beating Wisconsin 41-13 as Notre Dame would score 31 points in the fourth quarter. Going into the fourth quarter, the score was tied at 10, and Notre Dame would outscore Wisconsin 31-3 to pull off a historic win for them. For the 18th ranked Wisconsin Badgers, their starting quarterback Graham Mertz would throw for 240 yards, a touchdown, and 4 picks. Their leading receiver Kendrick Pryor had 69 yards on 6 receptions and a touchdown. On the defensive side of the ball, Leo Chenal would finish with 8 tackles, leading the team. Nick Herbig would finish with 3 tackles as he had 2 sacks. For the 12th ranked Fighting Irish, their starting quarterback Jack Cohn would throw for 158 yards and a touchdown. Their leading receiver, Kevin Austin Jr., had 76 yards off of 6 receptions as he had 2 touchdowns. On the defensive side of the ball, J.T. Bertrand would lead the team in tackles as he had 8 of them for the day. And on the defensive side, Cam Hart would finish with 2 interceptions on the day for the team, despite not getting a tackle. Jack Kaiser and Drew White would end up with pick sixes separately. With this win, the 12th ranked Notre Dame Fighting Irish are 4-0 to start their season. And with this loss, the 18th ranked Wisconsin Badgers are 1-2 on the season. Jumping out to Baylor in Waco, Texas, the unranked Baylor Bears were able to beat the 14th ranked Iowa State Cyclones 31-29. This game would be another game that came down to the end. Iowa State would score a touchdown, and then they would fail the 2-point conversion to tie the game, and that's how Baylor would run away with this win. But quickly looking out to how the 14th ranked Iowa State Cyclones fared. Their starting quarterback, Brock Purdy, would throw for 263 yards, and he would throw for a touchdown and a pick on the day. He would run for 11 additional yards. That's 274 yards of offense. Their leading rusher, Breece Hall, had 190 yards on 27 carries as he had 2 touchdowns. He also had 51 yards through the air and an additional touchdown, so that's 241 total yards of offense and 3 touchdowns from scrimmage. Their leading receiver, Chase Allen, had 98 yards on 7 receptions. On the defensive side of the ball, Greg Eisworth II would lead the team in tackles. He would have 10 of them. And then for the unranked Baylor Bears, their starting quarterback, Jerry Bohannon, had 164 yards and 2 touchdowns. Their leading receiver, R.J. Sneed, had 57 yards on 4 receptions. On the defensive side for Baylor, Dylan Doyle led the team in tackles as he had 9 of them. And then in the secondary, Garmin Randolph would finish with an interception with his 6 tackles on the day. With this win, the unranked Baylor Bears are now 4-0 to start their season. They are 2-0 in the Big 12. With this loss, the 14th ranked Iowa State Cyclones are 2-2 to start their season. They are 0-1 in the Big 12. Jumping to the 15th ranked team in the nation, BYU was able to beat unranked South Florida 35-27. They would score all 35 of their points in the first 3 quarters. They outscored South Florida going into the half, or 28-6 going into the half. For the 15th ranked Cougars, their starting quarterback, Baylor Romney, threw for 305 yards and 3 touchdowns. He also ran for an additional 14 yards, so that's 319 yards of offense with his 3 touchdowns. Their leading rusher, Tyler Algier, would finish with 86 yards on 15 carries and 2 touchdowns. Their leading receiver, Gunnar Romney, had 111 yards off of 5 receptions and a touchdown. And then Puka Nacua would have 102 yards on 4 receptions for himself. On the defensive side of the ball, Ben Bywater had 8 tackles. With this win, the 15th ranked BYU Cougars are now 4-0 to start their season. And with this loss, unranked USF is now 1-3 to start their season. Jumping out to the 17th ranked team in the nation, the 17th ranked Coastal Carolina Chanticleers would beat unranked UMass 53-3. They would go on to outscore UMass 46-0 or 36-0 in the first half. They would score an additional 2 touchdowns. Going into the fourth quarter, the score was 50-0. For Coastal Carolina, their starting quarterback Grayson McCall threw for 162 yards and 2 touchdowns. He would also have 9 yards on the ground and a touchdown, so that'd be 171 yards and 3 touchdowns of total offense. Their leading rusher, Braden Bennett, had 83 yards on 8 receptions and a touchdown. He also had 13 yards through the air. That's 96 total yards of offense. Coastal Carolina's leading receiver, Javon Haley, would have 118 yards off of 5 receptions and a touchdown. Isaiah Likely had 76 yards on 3 receptions and a touchdown for himself. On the defensive side of the ball, Jeffrey Gunter would finish with 3 tackles on the day, as 2 of them were sacks. He had 2 of Coastal Carolina's 3 sacks on the day. With this win, the 17th ranked Coastal Carolina Chanticleers are 4-0 to start their season. And with this loss, the unranked UMass Minutemen are now 0-4 to start their season. Jumping out to the 19th ranked team in the nation, the Michigan Wolverines hosted unranked Rutgers, and Michigan was able to give Rutgers their first loss of the season, beating them 20-13. Michigan would outscore Rutgers 20-3 in the first half. Even though Michigan would not score a single point in the second half, they would still remain undefeated. For the 19th ranked Wolverines, their starting quarterback, Cade McNamara, would throw for 163 yards. Their leading receiver, Mike Sainristil, would finish with 51 yards on his only reception of the day. Their rusher, Hassan Haskins, had 41 yards off of 12 carries, as he had both of the team's touchdowns. On the defensive side of the ball for Michigan, Nikai Hill-Green would finish with the team lead in tackles, as he had 8. With this win, the 19th ranked Wolverines are 4-0 to start their season, and they are 1-0 in the Big Ten. With this loss, unranked Rutgers is 3-1 to start their season. They are 0-1 in the Big Ten. Jumping out to the 20th ranked team in the nation, staying within the state, the Michigan State Spartans hosted the unranked Nebraska Cornhuskers. Michigan State would win this game 23-20, winning the game thanks to an overtime field goal. For Michigan State, their starting quarterback, Peyton Thorne, would throw for 183 yards, a touchdown, and a pick. Their leading rusher, Kenneth Walker III, had 61 yards on 19 carries for the day. Michigan State's leading receiver, Trey Mosley, had 70 yards on 6 receptions. On the defensive side of the ball, Michigan State's leading tackler, Xavier Henderson, had 17 tackles for the day. Jacob Slade had 8 tackles, as he would finish with a sack as well. Jacob Panasiuk would finish with 7 tackles on the day, as he finished with 2 sacks. Jeff Pietrowski would finish with 4 tackles, as he had a sack and a half. Chester Kimbrough would finish with a tackle, as he also had a 62-yard interception return. With this win, the 20th ranked Michigan State Spartans are now 4-0, as they are now 2-0 in the Big Ten. And, of course, with this loss, the unranked Nebraska Cornhuskers are now 2-3 to start their season. They are 0-2 in the Big Ten. Jumping out to Atlanta, Georgia, the unranked Georgia Tech Yellow Jackets hosted the 21st ranked North Carolina Tar Heels. Georgia Tech was able to beat UNC 45-22. In the second half, they would go on to outscore UNC 32-15. For the 21st ranked Tar Heels, their starting quarterback, Sam Howell, would throw for 306 yards and 2 touchdowns. He ran for 8 yards on the ground and an additional touchdown, so that's 314 total yards of offense with 3 touchdowns. Their leading receiver, Emery Simmons, had 110 yards off of 3 receptions. Kamari Morales had 66 yards off 7 receptions and an additional touchdown. On the defensive side of the ball, Jeremiah Gemmel would finish with 8 tackles on the day. And then for the unranked Georgia Tech Yellow Jackets, their starting quarterback, Jeff Sims, would throw for 112 yards and a touchdown. He also ran for 128 yards and 3 touchdowns. On the day, Jeff Sims would finish with 240 yards of offense and 4 touchdowns. Also on the ground, Jahmyr Gibbs would finish with 64 yards on 13 carries, as he had a touchdown on the ground as well. He had 16 yards through the air, giving him 80 yards of offense. On the defensive side of the ball for Georgia Tech, Quez Jackson had 10 tackles and a sack. Charlie Thomas had 8 tackles, as he had 2.5 sacks for the day. Kyle Kennard would finish with 4 tackles, as he had 2 sacks. Georgia Tech would finish with 8 sacks on the day. With this win, unranked Georgia Tech is now 2-2, as they are now 1-1 in the ACC at the moment. With this loss, the 21st ranked UNC Tar Heels are now 2-2 to start their season. They are now 1-2 in the ACC. Jumping out to the 23rd ranked team in the nation, the Auburn Tigers hosted the Georgia State Panthers. Georgia State coming into this matchup unranked. Going into the fourth quarter, Georgia State was leading Auburn 24-19. Auburn would end up winning this game 34-24 by outscoring Georgia State 15-0 in the fourth quarter. For Auburn, their starting quarterback Bo Nix would throw for 156 yards. TJ Finley threw for 97 yards and a touchdown. Their leading rusher was Jarquez Hunter. He had 62 yards on 10 carries. Their leading receiver was Kobe Hudson. He had 76 yards off 5 receptions. Shedrick Jackson finished with 70 yards off 4 receptions and a touchdown. On the defensive side of the ball, Chandler Wooten had 12 tackles on the day. Also in their defense, Smoke Monday would finish with 4 tackles. He would finish with a 36-yard pick six for the Tigers as well. With this win, the 23rd ranked Auburn Tigers are now 3-1 to start their season. And with this loss, the unranked Georgia State Panthers are 1-3 to start their season. Jumping out to see what's going on with the 24th ranked team in the nation, the UCLA Bruins went up to Palo Alto, California, and were able to beat the unranked Stanford Cardinal 35-24. They would outscore Stanford 21-7 in the first half, which would be the difference in it all. For the 24th ranked Bruins, their quarterback Dorian Thompson-Robinson threw for 251 yards and 2 touchdowns. He also ran for 30 yards and an additional 2 touchdowns. That's 281 total yards of offense and 4 touchdowns. On the ground, Zach Charbonnet would finish with 118 yards off of 23 carries and a touchdown. He finished with 57 yards through the air as well. He will go on to finish with 175 total yards of offense for the day. Through the air, Kyle Phillips had 120 yards off 5 receptions and 2 touchdowns as he was UCLA's leading receiver. On the defensive side of the ball, Quantrez Knight led the team in tackles as he had 7 of them. And with this win, the 24th ranked UCLA Bruins are 3-1 to start their season. They are now 1-1 in the Pac-12. With this loss, unranked Stanford is now 2-2 on the season. They are now 1-1 in the Pac-12. Last but not least, taking a look at what's going on with the 25th ranked team in the nation, the Kansas State Wildcats went to face off against the Oklahoma State Cowboys. The unranked Cowboys would beat Kansas State 31-20 after scoring all 31 of their points in the first half. They outscored Kansas State 31-13, and Kansas State just wouldn't be able to come back. For the 25th ranked Wildcats in this matchup, their starting quarterback Jaron Lewis threw for 148 yards, a touchdown, and a pick. Through the air, their leading receiver, Deuce Vaughn, had 73 yards off of 5 receptions and a touchdown. On the defensive side of the ball, Nick Allen and Cody Fletcher would finish with 10 tackles each, as Kansas State only had 1 sack on the day. For the unranked Cowboys, their starting quarterback, Spencer Sanders, threw for 344 yards and 2 touchdowns. He also ran for 18 yards and a touchdown, so that would be 362 total yards of offense and 3 touchdowns. Their leading rusher, Jaylen Warren, had 123 yards off 27 carries. Their leading receiver, Tay Martin, had 100 yards off of 9 receptions as he had a touchdown. On the defensive side of the ball, Colby Harvell-Peel had 8 tackles on the day. Through the air, Colby Harvell-Peel would finish with an interception on the day, as well as leading the Oklahoma State Cowboys in tackles. With this win, unranked Oklahoma State is now 4-0 to start their season, and they are now 1-0 in the Big 12. With this loss, 25th ranked Kansas State is 3-1 to start their season. They are now 0-1 to start their Big 12 season. That's everything that's going on for the 4th week of college football. Week 5 will pick up on Friday, October 1st. As once those games get to that point, I will go over them. And then following college football, taking a look at what's going on in the NFL today. Starting at looking at the 1 o'clock games, these 0-2 New York Giants are going to host the 0-2 Atlanta Falcons, as both of these teams are looking to get their first win of the season. At the same time, the Buffalo Bills, led by their elite starting quarterback Josh Allen, are going to host the 1-1 Washington football team. At the same time, at 1 o'clock, Baker Mayfield and the Cleveland Browns, the 1-1 Cleveland Browns, are going to host the Chicago Bears, who are going to be led by their elite newest starting quarterback Justin Fields. At the same time, at 1 o'clock, the Detroit Lions, coming into this matchup led by Jared Goff, are going to host the Baltimore Ravens, who are led by their elite starting quarterback, Lamar Jackson. Both these teams are 1-1. At the same time, at 1 o'clock, the 1-1 Tennessee Titans, led by arguably the best running back in football, Derrick Henry and Ryan Tannehill, are going to host the 0-2 Indianapolis Colts, being led by Carson Wentz as they look for their first win of the season. At the same time, the 1-1 Kansas City Chiefs, led by the $500 million man, Patrick Mahomes, are going to host the Los Angeles Chargers as they are being led by their elite young starting quarterback, Justin Herbert. At the same time, at 1 o'clock, the New England Patriots, led by their rookie starting quarterback, Mac Jones, are going to host the 1-1 New Orleans Saints as they are being led by Jameis Winston. At the same time, at 1 o'clock, the 1-1 Pittsburgh Steelers, led by their elite starting quarterback, Ben Roethlisberger, are going to host the 1-1 Cincinnati Bengals, who are being led by the number 1 overall pick from the 2020 NFL Draft, Joe Burrow. At 1 o'clock, at the same time, the number 1 overall pick in the elite starting quarterback for the Jacksonville Jaguars, the number 1 overall pick from the 2021 NFL Draft, Trevor Lawrence. They're going to host the 2-0 Arizona Cardinals, who are being led by their elite starting quarterback, Kyler Murray. At 4:05 on CBS, the Denver Broncos, currently being led by Teddy Bridgewater with a 2-0 record, are going to host the 2-0 New York Jets, who are being led by the 2021 second overall pick in the draft, Zach Wilson. At the same time, at 4:05 on CBS, the 2-0 Las Vegas Raiders are going to host the 1-1 Miami Dolphins. Raiders being led by Derek Carr. The Miami Dolphins are being led by Tua, probably. No, but I think Tua had an injury, but don't take my word for that one. At 4:25 on Fox, the 2-0 Los Angeles Rams, being led by Matt Stafford, are going to host the 2-0 defending Super Bowl champs Tampa Bay Buccaneers, who are being led by their goated starting quarterback Tom Brady. At the same time, at 4:25, the 0-2 Minnesota Vikings, being led by Kirk Cousins, are going to host the 1-1 Seattle Seahawks, who are being led by their elite starting quarterback Russell Wilson. And then taking a look at what's going on at 8:20 on NBC, the 2-0 San Francisco 49ers, being led by Jimmy Garoppolo, are going to host the 1-1 Green Bay Packers, who are going to be led by their goated starting quarterback Aaron Rodgers. And of course, as those games finish out, I'm going to come back tomorrow with everything that's going on there. Taking a look at what's going on with the MLB season, as the MLB season is coming to a close. Starting off in Chicago, the Chicago Cubs hosted the St. Louis Cardinals. The Cardinals were able to beat the Cubs 8-5 to extend the longest winning streak in the MLB this season. Like I said, they won it 8-5. For the Chicago Cubs in this matchup, the start was given to Adrian Sampson. Sampson would allow 2 earned runs in 6 innings pitched as he struck out 4. The loss would end up going to the Cubs' first relief pitcher on the day, Cody Hoyer. Cody Hoyer would allow 3 earned runs without getting a single out. With this, he would pick up his 3rd blown save of the season, and he's 7-3 on the year. In the Cubs batting lineup, their catcher Wilson Contreras went 2 for 5 with 2 RBIs and a run. Their right fielder Ian Happ went 2 for 4 with 3 RBIs and a run as he hit his 24th home run of the season. Their third baseman Matt Duffy went 2 for 4. Their second baseman David Bodie went 2 for 3 with a run. And then their shortstop Sergio Alcantara went 2 for 4 with 2 runs. For the St. Louis Cardinals, the start went to John Lester. He allowed 4 runs in 5 innings, striking out 6. The win would end up going to the Cardinals' first relief pitcher, Kwang Hyun Kim. He allowed no earned runs in the 6th inning, and with this win, he's now 7-7. In the Cardinals batting lineup, their center fielder Harrison Bader went 4 for 4 with 2 RBIs and 3 runs. He would hit his 14th home run of the season. He was the only player on the Cardinals with a multi-hit game. Their left fielder Tyler O'Neill will go 1 for 4 with an RBI and a run as he hit his 32nd home run of the season. With this win, the St. Louis Cardinals are now 86-69. That is the second best record in the National League Central. They've won their last 15 games, like I said, the longest winning streak in the MLB at this moment and this season. They've won, or after winning their last 15 games, they trailed the Milwaukee Brewers by 7 games in the division at the moment. And right now they're holding on to that second National League wildcard spot, sitting 13 games behind the Los Angeles Dodgers, who have already clinched a playoff spot. And they sit 5 games ahead of the Philadelphia Phillies, who are the first team sitting on the outside of the playoff picture looking in. With this loss, lost, the Chicago Cubs are now 67-88. That is the fourth best record in the National League Central. They've lost their last 5 games. They've lost 9 of their last 10. Their 5-game losing streak is actually the longest losing streak in the major leagues at the moment. They now trail the Milwaukee Brewers by 26 games in the division. And at the moment, the Chicago Cubs are one of 8 teams in the National League who have been eliminated from playoff contention. They sit alongside the Arizona Diamondbacks, the Pittsburgh Pirates, the Washington Nationals, the Miami Marlins, the Colorado Rockies, the New York Mets, and the San Diego Padres. Jumping out to Philadelphia, the Philadelphia Phillies hosted the Pittsburgh Pirates from within the state. The Phillies would end up beating the Pirates 3-0, shutting them out to keep their playoff hopes alive. For the Pittsburgh Pirates, the loss would go to their starting pitcher, Wil Crowe. Crowe allowed 3 earned runs in 4.2 innings pitched as he struck out 2. With this loss, he's now 4-8 on the season, and in the Pirates batting lineup, their catcher for the day, Taylor Davis, would end up going 2 for 3. He would have 2 of the Pirates' 4 hits, and then for the Philadelphia Phillies, the complete game win would go to Ranger Suarez. He allowed no earned runs and 4 hits in 9 innings pitched as he struck out 7. With this win, Ranger Suarez is 7-5 on the season. In the Phillies batting lineup, their center fielder Matt Vierling would go 2 for 3 with an RBI and a run. He hit his first home run of the season. Their elite right fielder Bryce Harper would go 1 for 3 with an RBI and a run as he would hit his 34th home run of the season. And then their all-star catcher JT Realmuto went 2 for 4. With this win, the Philadelphia Phillies are now 81-74. That is the second best record in the National League East. They've won their last 5 games. That is the best win streak in the division. They've won 8 of their last 10 games. They trail the Atlanta Braves by a game and a half in the division for the division title, and they trail the St. Louis Cardinals by 5 games for that second wild card spot, as the Phillies' best hope of making it into the playoffs is by trying to overtake the Atlanta Braves. With this loss, the Pittsburgh Pirates are now 57-97. That is the worst record in the National League Central and the second worst record in the National League. They've lost their last 3 games, and they've lost 6 of their last 10. They trailed the Milwaukee Brewers by 35 games in the division, and they are one of 8 teams eliminated from National League playoff contention with this loss. Jumping out to Oakland, the Oakland Athletics hosted the Houston Astros. The Athletics were able to beat the Astros 2-1. The Athletics would win this game by walking it off in the bottom of the 9th thanks to an RBI double from Starling Marte. For the Houston Astros in this matchup, the start went to Framber Valdez. He allowed 1 earned run in 6.2 innings pitched. He would strike out 3 on the day. The loss would go to the Astros closer, Ryan Pressly. Pressly would allow 1 earned run in the 9th inning. He was unable to finish. The only out he would get was a strikeout, and with this loss, he's 5-3. In the Astros batting lineup, nobody on the team would finish with more than 1 hit, which would be attributed to great pitching from Oakland. But the only RBI would go to their right fielder, Kyle Tucker, who went 1 for 4 with an RBI and a run, hitting his 28th home run of the season. For the Oakland Athletics, the start went to Sean Manaea. He allowed 1 earned run off of 3 hits in 7 innings as he struck out 8. The win would end up going to the Oakland Athletics closer for the day, Andrew Chafin. Andrew Chafin would allow no earned runs in the 9th inning, striking out a batter. With this win, he's 2-3. In the A's batting lineup, the only player on their team that had more than 1 hit was their shortstop, Elvis Andrus. He went 2 for 3 with a run. With this win, the Oakland Athletics are now 84-71. That is the 3rd best record in the American League West. They've won their last 2 games, and they've won 6 of their last 10. They trailed the Houston Astros by 7 games in the division at the moment. And they trailed the New York Yankees by 4 games for that second American League wildcard spot. They are on the 3rd spot on the outside looking in, as they also trail the Toronto Blue Jays and the Seattle Mariners, as their playoff hopes are still alive at the moment. With this loss, the Houston Astros are now 91-64. That is the best record in the American League West. They've lost their last 3 games, and they've lost 4 of their last 10. They sit 6 games ahead of the second place Seattle Mariners in the division, and they're holding on to that 2nd seed in the active American League playoff picture, sitting behind the 1st seed Tampa Bay Rays, who have just won the American League East, and they sit ahead of the Chicago White Sox, who have already won the American League Central. Jumping out to Boston, the Boston Red Sox hosted the New York Yankees in what is quite possibly the MLB's most storied rivalry. The Yankees would end up beating the Red Sox 5-3. The difference would be the fourth inning, where the Yankees would come in trailing 2-1, but then they would end up going up by 3 thanks to a grand slam from Giancarlo Stanton. For the Boston Red Sox in this matchup, the start went to Nick Pivetta. He allowed 1 earned run and 3 hits in 5.1 innings pitched. He would strike out 7. The loss would end up going to the Red Sox second relief pitcher, Tanner Houck. Houck would allow 2 earned runs in 1.2 innings pitched. He would go on to pitch the entire 7th inning, but he would not finish the 8th. He would strike out 3 batters in that span, and with his loss, he's 1-5. In the Red Sox batting lineup, their catcher Kevin Plawecki would go 2 for 2 with an RBI and a run. Plawecki would hit his 3rd home run of the season for the Red Sox. And then for the New York Yankees, the start would go to Nestor Cortes. Nestor Cortes would allow 2 earned runs in 4.1 innings, striking out 4. The win would go to the Yankees setup relief pitcher Luis Severino. Severino would allow no earned runs in the 7th and 8th innings, striking out 4. With his win, he's 1-0. The save would go to the Yankees closer Aroldis Chapman. He allowed 1 earned run in 1 inning pitch and striking out 1. With this save, the all-star closer now has 29 on the season. In the Yankees batting lineup, their elite designated hitter, Giancarlo Stanton, went 2 for 3 with 4 RBIs and a run, as his grand slam was his 33rd home run of the season. With this win, the New York Yankees are now 88-67. They are tied with the Boston Red Sox for the second best record in the American League East. The Yankees have won their last 5 games. That is the longest winning streak in the American League, and they are currently tied with the Philadelphia Phillies for the second longest winning streak in baseball right now. The Yankees have won 7 of their last 10 games as they trailed the Tampa Bay Rays by 8 games in the division. And right now they are sitting even with the Boston Red Sox in those 2 wild card spots. They both sit 2 games ahead of the Toronto Blue Jays, who at the moment are the first team on the outside looking in, just to show how close the wild card race is. And then with this loss, the Boston Red Sox are also 88-67, tied for the second best record in the American League East. They've lost their last 2 games, and they've lost 3 of their last 10. And with the Yankees, they are sitting 2 games ahead of the Toronto Blue Jays, who are the first team on the outside looking in. Jumping out to Detroit, the Detroit Tigers hosted the Kansas City Royals. The Tigers would end up beating the Royals 5-1 after the Royals scored the first run of the game in the 5th inning. The Tigers would go on to take the lead by scoring 3 in the bottom of the 6th, 2 of them coming from Miguel Cabrera. Who else? For the Kansas City Royals, the start was given to John Heasley. Heasley would allow no earned runs and 3 hits in 5.1 innings, striking out 3 before getting pulled in the 6th. The loss would go to the Royals' first relief pitcher in the day, Domingo Tapia. Tapia would allow 3 earned runs after only registering 1 out in the 6th inning. With this loss, Tapia is 4-1 on the season. Thus, he would also pick up his 3rd blown save of the year. In the Royals batting lineup, their shortstop Nicky Lopez went 2 for 4. Their right fielder Hunter Dozier went 2 for 3 with an RBI, and then their center fielder Edward Olivares would end up going 2 for 3 on the day. For the Detroit Tigers, the start went to Tarik Skubal. He allowed no earned runs and only 1 hit in 4 innings pitched as he struck out a batter. The win would go to the Tigers' first relief pitcher for the day, Drew Hutchison. Hutchison would allow 1 run in 2.2 innings pitched. With this win, he's now 3-1 on the season before he got pulled in the 7th inning. The save would go to the Tigers' closer, Michael Fulmer. He allowed no earned runs as in 1.1 inning as he finished off the 8th and pitched the entire 9th. He would finish with 2 strikeouts on the day. With this save, he now has 12 on the year. In the Tigers batting lineup, their first baseman, Jonathan Schoop, went 2 for 3 with 2 runs. Their future Hall of Fame designated hitter, Miguel Cabrera, went 3 for 4 with 4 RBIs and a run. And then their third baseman, Jeimer Candelario, will go 2 for 4 with an RBI. With this win, the Detroit Tigers are now 75-79. That is the 3rd best record in the American League Central. They've won 7 of their last 10. They trail the Chicago White Sox by 11.5 games in the division. And with this loss, the Kansas City Royals are now 70-84. That is the 4th best record in the American League Central. They've lost 6 of their last 10, and they trail the Chicago White Sox by 16.5 games in the division. With this with this game being played, the Detroit Tigers and the Kansas City Royals are two of 7 teams that have already been eliminated from playoff contention in the American League. Jumping out to Tampa Bay, the Tampa Bay Rays faced off against the Miami Marlins from like 2 hours down the road, and the Rays would end up beating the Marlins 7-3 as they would score all 7 of their runs in the 4th through 8th inning, scoring a run in every single one of those innings. For the Miami Marlins, the loss was given to their starting pitcher, Sandy Alcantara. He allowed 5 runs in 6 innings pitched, striking out 6. With this loss, Alcantara is 9-14 on the year. In the Marlins batting lineup, their second baseman, Jazz Chisholm, will go 2 for 5 with a run. Their center fielder, Brian De La Cruz, went 3 for 4 with an RBI. Their right fielder, Jesus Sanchez, went 3 for 5 with a run. And then their designated hitter for the day, Nick Fortes, would end up going 2 for 2. For the Tampa Bay Rays, the win would go to their starting pitcher, Shane McClanahan. McClanahan would allow 1 earned run in 5 innings pitched as he struck out 3. With this win, he's now 10-6. In the Rays batting lineup, their second baseman, Brandon Lau, went 4 for 5 with 2 RBIs. Their shortstop, Joey Wendell, would go 2 for 4 with an RBI and a run. Their third baseman, Yandy Diaz, would go 2 for 4 with an RBI and a run. And their all-star catcher, Mike Zunino, would go 2 for 4 with 2 RBIs and 2 runs. Zunino would hit his 32nd home run of the season. With this win, the Tampa Bay Rays are now 96-59. That is the best record in the American League. That is the 3rd best record in all of baseball. They've won their last 3 games, and they've won 6 of their last 10. With this win, they have officially clinched the American League East title as they currently sit 8 games ahead of the Boston Red Sox and the New York Yankees, who are tied for the 2nd best record in the division. At the moment, the Rays are holding on to the number 1 playoff position, the number 1 playoff seed, as they sit ahead of the Houston Rockets, or the Houston Astros, who are currently leading the American League West. And they're also sitting ahead of the 3rd seed Chicago White Sox, who have already won the American League Central. With this loss, the Miami Marlins are 64-90. That is the 4th best record in the National League East. They've lost their last 4 games, and they've lost 7 of their last 10. They now trail the Atlanta Braves by 18 games in the division. With this loss, the Miami Marlins are already one of 8 teams who have already been eliminated from playoff contention in the National League. Jumping out to Baltimore, the Baltimore Orioles, who came into this matchup with the worst record in baseball, were able to beat the Rangers 3-2, as they are still tied with the Arizona Diamondbacks for the worst record in baseball, but they were able to get their 3 runs in the 7th inning before the Rangers could score at all. 1 run coming from an RBI double from Pat Valaika, and 2 coming from a home run from Kelvin Gutierrez. For the Texas Rangers in this matchup, the loss would go to their starting pitcher, Jordan Lyles. Jordan Lyles would allow 3 earned runs in 6.2 innings, striking out 4 before getting pulled in the 7th. With this loss, he's 9-13. In the Rangers batting lineup, their first baseman, Nathaniel Lowe, would go 2 for 4 with an RBI and a run. He hit his 17th home run of the season. And then their catcher, Jose Trevino, would end up going 3 for 3 with an RBI and a run. He would go on to hit his 4th home run of the season. And then for the Baltimore Orioles, the start was given to Chris Ellis. Ellis pitched 3 innings as he struck out 2. The win would go to the Baltimore Orioles setup relief pitcher, Brooks Kriske. Brooks Kriske would allow 1 earned run in 1 inning pitched as he struck out a batter. The save would end up going to the Orioles closer for the day, Dylan Tate. He would pitch 1.1 innings, finishing the 8th and pitching the entire 9th, allowing 1 run in that span and also striking out a batter. That would be his 3rd save of the season. In the Orioles batting lineup, their center fielder, Ryan McKenna, would end up going 2 for 4 on the day. Additionally, their third baseman, Kelvin Gutierrez, went 2 for 3 with 2 RBIs and a run. Gutierrez would hit his 2nd home run of the season. With this win, the Baltimore Orioles are 50-105. That is the worst record in the American League East and the worst record in the American League. They are tied with the Arizona Diamondbacks for the worst record in all of baseball. They've won 4 of their last 10 games as they trail the Tampa Bay Rays by 46 games in the division. That is also the gap between the best and worst teams in the American League. And with this loss, of course, the Orioles are one of 7 teams that have been eliminated from with this win, they're one of 7 teams that have been eliminated from playoff contention, alongside the Texas Rangers, the very team they beat. The Rangers are now 56-99. That is the worst record in the American League West. They've lost 8 of their last 10 games as they trail the Astros by 35 games in the division. And like I said, the Rangers are one of 7 teams alongside the Orioles that have been eliminated from the American League playoff race. Jumping out to Cincinnati, the Cincinnati Reds hosted the Washington Nationals, and to keep the Reds season alive, they would end up beating the Nationals 7-6 thanks to a walk-off solo home run from Nick Castellanos to win the Reds their 80th game of the season. For the Washington Nationals in this matchup, the start went to Erick Fedde. He allowed 5 earned runs in 4.2 innings, striking out a batter. The loss would end up going to the Nats closer for the day, Patrick Murphy. Murphy would allow 1 earned run in 1.1 innings pitched. He would strike out 2, and he would not finish the 9th inning. With this loss, he's 0-3. In the Nationals batting lineup, their center fielder Lane Thomas went 2 for 5 with an RBI and a run. Their first baseman Josh Bell went 2 for 5 with an RBI and a run. Their catcher, Keibert Ruiz, would end up going 1 for 4 with an RBI and 2 runs as he hit his 3rd home run of the year. Their second baseman, Luis Garcia, will go 2 for 5 as well. For the Cincinnati Reds, the start went to Vlad Gutierrez. He allowed 4 earned runs in 2.2 innings, striking out 3. The win was given to the Reds closer for the day, Michael Givens. Givens allowed no earned runs in the 9th inning, and with this win, he's now 4-3. In the Reds batting lineup, their second baseman, Jonathan India, went 2 for 5 with 2 runs. Their right fielder, Nick Castellanos, went 2 for 3 with 3 RBIs and 2 runs. He hit his 31st home run of the season. Their shortstop, Kyle Farmer, went 2 for 3 with an RBI and a run. Their elite third baseman, Eugenio Suarez, would go 2 for 3 with 2 RBIs. And then their center fielder, TJ Friedel, would end up going 2 for 4 with a run. With this win, the Cincinnati Reds are now 80-75. That is the 3rd best record in the National League Central. They've won their last 2 games, and they've won 5 of their last 10. They trail the Milwaukee Brewers by 13 games in the division, as the Reds are the team who's the next team who's in threat of being eliminated from playoff contention. With this loss, the Washington Nationals are now 64-91. That is the worst record in the National League East as they've lost their last 2 games. They've lost 6 of their last 10. They trail the Atlanta Braves by 18.5 games in the division as they are one of 8 teams in the National League who have already been eliminated from playoff contention. Jumping out to Minneapolis, the Minnesota Twins hosted the Toronto Blue Jays, and in a must-win for the Blue Jays, they were able to beat the Twins after the Twins scored the first run of the game in the 1st inning. For the Twins in this matchup, the loss will go to their starting pitcher, John Gant. He allowed 2 runs in 3 innings, striking out a batter, and with this loss, he's 5-10. In the Twins batting lineup, nobody on the team finished with more than 1 hit, and that will be attributed to great pitching from Toronto. For the Blue Jays, the win went to Robbie Ray. Robbie Ray allowed 1 earned run and only 3 hits in 6 innings as he struck out 6 on the day. With this win, Robbie Ray is 13-6 on the season. In the Blue Jays batting lineup, their all-star second baseman Marcus Semien would go 2 for 5 with an RBI and a run. He hit his 43rd home run of the season. Their designated hitter, Teoscar Hernandez, would go 2 for 4 with an RBI and 2 runs as he hit his 31st home run of the season. With this win, the Toronto Blue Jays are now 86-69. That is the 4th best record in the American League East as they've won 5 of their last 10 games. They trail the Tampa Bay Rays by 10 games in the division as the Rays have already won the division. And they sit 2 games behind the Boston Red Sox and the New York Yankees for a wild card spot. The Blue Jays are currently the first team on the outside of the American League picture looking in. With this loss, the Minnesota Twins are 69-86. That is the worst record in the American League Central. They've lost 4 of their last 10 as they trail the Chicago White Sox by 18 games in the division. The Twins are one of 7 teams in the American League who have been eliminated from playoff contention. Jumping out to Milwaukee, the Brewers hosted the New York Mets. The Brewers would end up beating the Mets 2-1 as they scored the very first 2 runs in the game in the 3rd inning. For the Mets in this matchup, the loss would go to their starting pitcher, Rich Hill. He allowed 2 earned runs and 2 hits in 5 innings as he struck out 6. With this loss, Rich Hill is 6-8 on the year. In the Mets batting lineup, their center fielder, Brandon Nimmo, went 3 for 4. He would have 3 of the team's 6 hits on the day. For the Milwaukee Brewers, the win would go to their all-star starting pitcher, Corbin Burns. He allowed 1 earned run off of 5 hits and 7 innings pitched. He would strike out 9 for the day. The save would go to the Brewers' elite closer, Josh Hader. He allowed no earned runs in the ninth inning as he struck out a batter, and with this save, he now has 34 on the season. In the Brewers batting lineup, their first baseman, Eduardo Escobar, will go 2 for 3 with 2 RBIs. He had 2 of the team's 4 hits. With this win, the Milwaukee Brewers are now 93-62. That is the best record in the National League Central, as they've already clinched a playoff spot. They've won their last 2 games, and they've won 4 of their last 10. They sit 7 games ahead of the second place St. Louis Cardinals in their division. And in the playoff picture, they are currently trailing the first seed San Francisco Giants, and they also sit ahead of the third seed Atlanta Braves, who are sitting on top of the National League East. With this loss, the New York Mets are now 73-81. That is the third best record in the National League East. They've won their last 4 games, and they've lost 9 of their last 10. They trail the Atlanta Braves by 9 games in the division, as the Mets are one of 8 teams that have been eliminated from playoff contention so far. Jumping out to San Diego, the San Diego Padres hosted the Atlanta Braves. The Braves were able to beat the Padres 10-8 in the 10th inning. And the difference would be a Jorge Soler double that gave the Braves the lead, and then an Ozzie Albies sacrifice fly would put them up 2 to eliminate the Padres from playoff contention. For the San Diego Padres in this matchup, the start went to Vince Velasquez. He allowed 2 earned runs in 3 innings, striking out 3. The loss would end up going to the Padres closer, Daniel Hudson. Hudson allowed 2 runs in the 10th inning as he struck out 2. With this loss, he's 5-3. In the Padres batting lineup, their all-star second baseman Adam Frazier went 3 for 5 with an RBI and 2 runs. He hit his 5th home run of the season. Their center fielder, Trent Grisham, would end up going 2 for 4 with a run. And then their elite third baseman, Manny Machado, would go 1 for 5 with 4 RBIs and a run. Manny Machado would end up hitting his home run in the 5th inning, and his fifth inning home run was a grand slam for the fact. For the Atlanta Braves, the start went to Huascar Ynoa. He allowed 7 earned runs in 4.2 innings. He would strike out 6 before getting pulled in the 5th inning. The win would go to the Braves setup relief pitcher Rich Rodriguez. Richard Rodriguez would allow no earned runs in the 9th inning. With this win, he's 5-4. The save for the Braves would go to their closer, Will Smith. Smith allowed no earned runs in the 10th inning as he struck out 2. With this save, he now has 34 on the season. And in the Braves batting lineup, their right fielder, Jorge Soler, went 3 for 5 with 4 RBIs and 2 runs. Soler would hit his 25th home run of the season. Their elite second baseman, Ozzie Albies, would go 2 for 5 with 2 RBIs and a run. Their third baseman, Austin Riley, would go 3 for 6 with 2 RBIs and a run. Their left fielder, Eddie Rosario, would go 2 for 5 with an RBI as well. With this win, the Atlanta Braves are 82-72. That is the best record in the National League East, as they've won their last 2 games and they've won 6 of their last 10. They sit a game and a half ahead of the second-place Philadelphia Phillies in the division, and they are holding on to the 3rd seed in the National League playoff picture as they trail the 1st seed San Francisco Giants leading out west, and they also trail the Milwaukee Brewers, who have already clinched the playoffs while currently leading the National League Central. With this loss, the San Diego Padres are now 78-77. That is the 3rd best record in the National League West. They've lost their last 2 games, and they've lost 7 of their last 10. They trail the San Francisco Giants by 23 games in the division. And with this loss, the Padres are now the 8th team in the National League that have been eliminated from playoff contention. They sit alongside the Arizona Diamondbacks, the Pittsburgh Pirates, the Washington Nationals, the Miami Marlins, the Chicago Cubs, the Colorado Rockies, and the New York Mets. Jumping out to Cleveland, the Cleveland Indians hosted the Chicago White Sox, and the Indians were able to beat the White Sox 6-0, holding the White Sox to only 3 hits all game. But regardless, the White Sox are in the playoffs, and the Indians won't be. For the Chicago White Sox in this matchup, the loss went to their starting pitcher, Lance Lynn. Lynn allowed 6 earned runs in 6 innings pitched as he struck out 6. With this loss, Lance Lynn is 10-6. In the White Sox batting lineup, nobody on the team would finish with more than 1 hit. For the Cleveland Indians, the win will go to their starting pitcher, Eli Morgan. He would allow no earned runs and only 1 hit in 6 innings as he struck out 6 for the day. With this loss, Eli Morgan is 4-7. In the Indians batting lineup, their center fielder, Miles Straw, went 2 for 4 with 2 runs. Their shortstop, Ahmed Rosario, went 2 for 4 with a run. And their elite third baseman, Jose Ramirez, went 2 for 4 with 3 RBIs and 2 runs. Jose Ramirez would hit his 36th home run of the season. With this win, the Cleveland Indians are now 76-78. That is the second best record in the American League Central, as they've won 5 of their last 10. They trail the American League champs, Chicago White Sox, by 10.5 games in the division, as the Cleveland Indians are one of 7 teams that have been eliminated from American League playoff contention. With this loss, the Chicago White Sox are 87-68. That is the best record in the American League Central. They've lost 6 of their last 10 games. They sit 10.5 games ahead of the second place Cleveland Indians in the division, and they're holding on to that 3rd seed in the American League playoff picture, as they have already clinched the American League Central title. They sit behind the 1st seed American League East champs, Tampa Bay Rays, and they're sitting ahead of the active leaders of they're sitting behind the active leaders of the American League West, the Houston Astros, who are holding on to that 2 seed. Jumping out to Phoenix, the Arizona Diamondbacks, coming in with the worst record in baseball, tied with the Orioles, were able to beat the Dodgers 7-2 to pick up their 50th win, to tie them to be the last team in the MLB to cross the 50-win threshold in a matter of hours. For the Los Angeles Dodgers in this matchup, the loss went to their goated starting pitcher Clayton Kershaw. He allowed 4 runs in 4.1 innings. He would strike out 3 before getting pulled in the 5th inning. With this loss, Clayton Kershaw is 10-8 on the year. In the Dodgers batting lineup, their all-star second baseman Trey Turner went 2 for 4 with 2 RBIs and 2 runs. He would hit his 23rd and 24th home runs of the season. For the Arizona Diamondbacks, the win went to their elite starting pitcher, Zach Gallen. He allowed 1 earned run off of 3 hits and 6 innings pitched, as he would strike out 8 for the day. With this win, he's 3-10. In the Diamondbacks batting lineup, their second baseman, Ketel Marte, went 3 for 5 with an RBI and 2 runs. He hit his 13th home run of the season. Their right fielder, Dalton Varsho, went 2 for 4 with an RBI as well. With this win, the Arizona Diamondbacks are now 50-105. That is the worst record in the National League West and the worst record in the National League. They've won 3 of their last 10 games. They trailed the San Francisco Giants by 51 games, which is the gap between the best and worst teams in baseball this year. And with this loss, the Arizona Diamondbacks are one of 8 teams in the National League that have been eliminated from playoff contention. They currently sit alongside the Pittsburgh Pirates, the Washington Nationals, the Miami Marlins, the Chicago Cubs, the Colorado Rockies, the New York Mets, and the San Diego Padres. With this loss, the Los Angeles Dodgers are now 99-56. That is the second best record in all of baseball, and that is the second best record in the National League West. They've lost their last 3 games as they trail the San Francisco Giants by 3 games in the division. Right now, they are holding on to that top National League wildcard spot, as the Dodgers they are one of 3 teams that have clinched a playoff spot in the National League, leaving 2 up for grabs. They sit 13 games ahead of the second place St. Louis Cardinals in that wild card, which is where they've already secured that playoff spot. And then jumping out to Denver, the site of the 2021 MLB All-Star Game, the San Francisco Giants were able to beat the Rockies 7-2 to increase their lead over the Dodgers in the standings. The Giants would go into the top of the 5th inning trailing 2-1, but they would score 3 innings thanks to a home run from Brandon Belt that would help them run away with the lead that they needed for their 101st win. For the Colorado Rockies, the loss went to their starting pitcher, Jon Gray. He allowed 4 earned runs in 4.2 innings, striking out 5. With this loss, Jon Gray is 8-12 on the season. In the Rockies batting lineup, their left fielder, Raimel Tapia, went 2 for 4. Their elite right fielder, Charlie Blackmon, went 3 for 5 with a run. Their catcher, Elias Diaz, went 2 for 4. And then for the San Francisco Giants, the start went to Anthony DeSclafani. DeSclafani would allow 2 earned runs in 4 innings as he struck out 3. The win would end up going to the Giants' closer for the day, Tony Watson. Watson would allow no earned runs in the 9th inning as he struck out a batter. With his win, he's now 7-4. In the Giants batting lineup, their first baseman, Brandon Belt, will go 3 for 5 with 4 RBIs and 2 runs. He will go on to hit his 28th and 29th home runs of the year. Their third baseman, Wilmer Flores, went 2 for 4 with a run. Their center fielder, Steven Duggar, will go 2 for 4 with an RBI and a run as well. With this win, the San Francisco Giants are now 101-54. That is the best record in all of baseball. And of course, that's the best record in the National League West. They've won their last 2 games, and they've won 6 of their last 10. They only sit 2 games ahead of the second place Los Angeles Dodgers in the division, but they've already secured one of the one of the 3 playoff spots already secured in the National League. And at the moment, they are sitting in that number 1 seed in the playoff picture, sitting ahead of the current National League leaders, the Milwaukee Brewers, holding that 2nd seed, and they're sitting ahead of the 3rd seed Atlanta Braves, who are just barely sitting on top of the National League East. With this loss, the Colorado Rockies are 71-83. That is the 4th best record in the National League West. They've lost their last 3 games, and they've lost 5 of their last 10. They now trail the San Francisco Giants by 29.5 games in the division. And they are one of 8 teams in the National League that have been eliminated from playoff contention. Last but not least, jumping out to Anaheim, the Los Angeles Angels hosted the Seattle Mariners, and the Angels were able to spoil a little bit of the Mariners' season by winning 14-1. They would score 8 runs in the 3rd, as by the end of the 3rd inning, they were already up 11-1. For the Seattle Mariners in this matchup, the loss would end up going to their starting pitcher, Tyler Anderson. Anderson would allow 9 earned runs in 2 innings, and with this loss, he's 7-10. In the Mariners batting lineup, their catcher Tyler Raleigh would go 2 for 3 on the day. He would be the only player with more than 1 hit. For the Los Angeles Angels, the start went to Jaime Barria. Barria would allow no earned runs in 2 innings, and the win would go to the Angels' only relief pitcher on the day, Jonathan Diaz. Jonathan Diaz would pitch 7 innings. He would allow no earned runs from the 3rd through 9th inning as he struck out 4. With this win, he's now 1-0 in the 2021 season. In the Angels' batting lineup, their center fielder, Brandon Marsh, would go 2 for 4 with an RBI and 4 runs. Their all-star designated hitter, Shohei Ohtani, would go 2 for 3 with 3 RBIs and 3 runs. He would go on to hit his 6th and 7th triples of the season. Their left fielder, Phil Gosselin, would go 2 for 3 with 4 RBIs and 2 runs. Their all-star first baseman, Jared Walsh, would end up going 4 for 5 with 4 RBIs and a run. And then their shortstop for the day, Luis Rengifo, he would go 2 for 4 with an RBI and 2 runs as he hit his 6th home run of the season. With this win, the Los Angeles Angels are 74-81. That is the 4th best record in the American League West, as they've won only 3 of their last 10 games. They trail the Houston Astros by 17 games in the division, and the Angels are one of 7 teams in the American League that have been eliminated from playoff contention. With this loss, the Seattle Mariners are now 85-70. That is the 2nd best record in the American League West. They've won 3 of their last 10 games as they trail the Houston Astros by 6 games in the division. They are currently sitting 3 games behind the Red Sox and the Yankees for a wild card spot. The Mariners are currently sitting in the 2nd spot on the outside looking in as they also trail the Toronto Blue Jays by a game. That is what the MLB is looking like as it leads into today's matchups. So, because today is Sunday, which is kind of known for being a traveling day, the games are going to be earlier. Starting at 12:10, Willie Peralta and the Detroit Tigers are going to host Chris Bubich and the Kansas City Royals. Willie Peralta enters his matchup with a 4-3 record, holding a 3.04 ERA, as neither of these teams are playing for playoff contention at all. At 1:05, the Philadelphia Phillies, who are currently holding on to the 2nd best record in the National League East, are going to host the Pittsburgh Pirates from within the state, who have no shot at making the playoffs this year. At 1:05, at the same time, John Means and the Baltimore Orioles are going to host Dane Dunning and the Texas Rangers. Neither of these teams has playoff aspirations, but John Means comes into this matchup with a 6-7 record, holding a 3.25 ERA. At 1:10, Tristan McKenzie and the Cleveland Indians, who have already been eliminated from playoff contention, are going to host Lucas Giolito and the Chicago White Sox, who have already won the American League Central. Lucas Giolito comes into this matchup with a 10-9 record, holding a 3.70 ERA. At the same time, Shane Baz and the Tampa Bay Rays, who hold the best record in the American League, are going to host Jesus Luzardo and the Miami Marlins, who have already been eliminated from the National League playoffs. At 1:10, Tyler Mahle and the Cincinnati Reds, who are just fighting for their lives in the National League playoff picture, are going to host Josh Rogers and the Washington Nationals. Tyler Mahle comes into this matchup with a 12-6 record, holding a 3.66 ERA. The Reds are the team that's next in threat of losing playoff positioning, or a chance at playoff positioning. At 2:10, Freddie Peralta and the Milwaukee Brewers, who are holding on to the best record in the MLB or in the National League Central, are going to host Carlos Carrasco and the New York Mets. Freddie Peralta enters his matchup with a 9-5 record and a 2.65 ERA. The Brewers are hopefully looking to clinch their division with a win here today. At the same time, at 2:10, Griffin Jackson, the Minnesota Twins, are going to host Alek Manoah and the Toronto Blue Jays. Manoah enters his matchup with a 7-2 record and a 3.66 ERA. The Blue Jays are holding on to the fourth best record in the American League. They are 2 games outside of the wild card, so this win is very important for them. The Twins have been eliminated from playoff contention, but I feel like any way to ruin anyone else's playoff hopes is probably what a lot of these players are playing for at this point. At 2:20, Keegan Thompson and the Chicago Cubs are going to host Jake Woodford and the hottest team in baseball right now, the St. Louis Cardinals. Jake Woodford comes into this matchup with a 3-3 record, holding a 3.92 ERA for a St. Louis Cardinals team that has won their last 15 games, the longest active win streak and the longest win streak in baseball this season. Keegan Thompson comes into this matchup with a 3-3 record as he holds a 3.4 ERA on the season. At 3:10, Antonio Senzatella and the Colorado Rockies are going to host Kevin Gausman and the San Francisco Giants, who come into this matchup with the best record in baseball, the only team with triple-digit wins at the moment. Kevin Gausman enters his matchup with a 14-6 record, holding a 2.92 ERA. At 4:07, Paul Blackburn and the Oakland Athletics are going to host Jake Odorizzi and the Houston Astros. The Astros come into this matchup with the best record in the American League West. And the Athletics still have playoff hopes, aspirations still alive. So, of course, that's going to be a big game between these two teams. At the same time, at 4:07, the Los Angeles Angels, led by their all-star pitcher Shohei Ohtani, are going to host Marco Gonzalez and the Seattle Mariners, as the Mariners are still fighting for playoff positioning. Marco Gonzalez enters his matchup with a 9-5 record, holding a 4.14 ERA. Shohei Ohtani enters his matchup with a 9-2 record, as he's holding a 3.28 ERA on the year. At 4:10, Humberto Mejia and the Arizona Diamondbacks, who hold the worst record in baseball, are going to host Julio Urias and the defending World Series champs LA Dodgers, who are looking to pick up their 100th win of the season. Julio Urias enters his matchup with an 18-3 record, holding a 3.10 ERA. And at the same time, at 4:10, Joe Musgrove and the San Diego Padres, who were just most recently eliminated from playoff contention, are going to host Jesse Chavez and the Atlanta Braves, who are just sitting a game and a half ahead of the Philadelphia Phillies. So a win here would be very important for their playoff hopes. For the Braves, Jesse Chavez comes into this matchup with a 3-2 record, holding a 2.37 ERA. For the San Diego Padres, Joe Musgrove is now 11-9, as he's holding a 3.15 ERA. Last but not least, at 7 o'clock, it will be the finale of baseball's favorite rivalry in Fenway Park. Eduardo Rodriguez is going to take the mound for the Boston Red Sox, as Jordan Montgomery will take the mound for the New York Yankees. Jordan Montgomery comes into this matchup with a 6-6 record, holding a 3.55 ERA. Eduardo Rodriguez comes into this matchup with an 11-8 record, holding a 4.97 ERA. Both teams come into this game with the same record. They're both tied for the second best record in the American League East. The winner of this will more than likely be in the top wild card position, and the loser will be in the lower. Following this matchup, this will be a good way of seeing how this league pans out. That's everything going on with baseball. Taking a look at what's been going on with soccer from yesterday, because of course we're not done. So much is going on a Saturday. Starting off in the English Premier League, Manchester City was able to beat Chelsea 1-0, as its only goal came from Gabriel Jesus in the 53rd minute. With this win, Man City is now tied with Chelsea and Man United, as well as Everton, for the second best standing in the table. When Chelsea, with this loss, like I said, they're sitting even with Man City, as they both sit 1 point below Liverpool. Manchester United lost to Aston Villa, as Villa would score the only goal of the game in the 88th minute. And with this, Man U is sitting alongside Everton, Chelsea, and Man City, tied for the second best record in the Premier League, as all those teams have a win, a draw, or have 4 wins, a draw, and a loss in their first 6 matchups. And then also yesterday, Liverpool was able to draw with Brentford. So they are the only Premier League team that is still undefeated. They got their first goal from their Portuguese forward, Diogo Jota. Their second goal would come from Mohamed Salah, as that would be his 100th Premier League goal with Liverpool. And then, of course, they were going to go from Jones in the 67th minute. And with this draw, Liverpool is sitting clear at the top of the Premier League table, sitting a point ahead of Man City, Chelsea, Man U, and Everton, who are all tied for second. So that is how closely packed the Premier League is. Taking a look at what's going on in Spanish La Liga, Atletico Madrid came into this match, or the defending La Liga champs, faced off against Alaves. Alaves would score the only goal of the game in the 4th minute from LaGuardia. And with this loss, Atletico Madrid has now dropped. They are sitting with the 3rd best record in La Liga. Real Madrid, with the chance to extend their lead, were able to draw against Villarreal, as neither team scored in that matchup either. But with this draw, Real Madrid still sits 3 points clear of Sevilla, who could possibly catch them on points with another win. But right now, that is what La Liga is looking like. Taking a look at what's going on with German soccer in the Bundesliga, Borussia Dortmund they were able to fall to Borussia Mönchengladbach. Mönchengladbach's goal will come in the 37th minute, 3 minutes before Borussia Dortmund would draw a yellow card. With this win, Borussia Mönchengladbach is now holding on to the 11th best record in the Bundesliga. And with this loss, Dortmund now is sitting with the 4th best record in the Bundesliga. They sit 4 points below Bayern Munich for the table at the moment. Also, RB Leipzig was able to beat Hertha Berlin 6-0, as two of their goals will come from Christopher Nkunku. And with this win, RB Leipzig is currently sitting with the 10th best record in the Bundesliga at the moment, as they sit 9 points below Bayern. Taking a look at what's going on with Italian Serie A. The reigning Serie A champs, Inter Milan, were able to draw with Milan, as their goal from Edin Dzeko in the 71st minute would actually even everything up right where they needed it to. With this draw, Inter now sits 3rd in the Serie A table, as they currently trail AC Milan and Napoli. Speaking of AC Milan was able to beat Spezia 2-1 thanks to their 86-minute goal from Brahim Diaz. Like I said, AC Milan sit 1 point clear of Napoli, who's played one less game. With a draw, Napoli would tie with Milan, but with a win in their next game, Napoli could take over the top of Serie A. And then looking at the French league, the defending Ligue 1 champs, Lille, were able to beat Strasbourg 2-1, as both of their goals came from Jonathan David. With this win, with Jonathan David's efforts, Lille is now holding the 8th best record in Ligue 1, as they are sitting 13 points behind PSG at the moment. PSG remain undefeated, and they haven't even drawn yet, as they would get their first goal in the 14th minute from Gay, and then their 89th minute from Julian Draxler to pick up their 8th win of the season. They are sitting 10 points clear of second place Marseille, just to give a sense of how dominant PSG has really been just to start this year. And that's currently where we are with everything going on with sports. And then just looking forward to what's going on today. In the Premier League, Arsenal is going to face off versus Tottenham in the Premier League Derby. Looking at the Premier League, Tottenham is currently holding on to the 10th best record. With a win here, they could possibly jump up into the top 6. Arsenal is currently holding the 13th best record in the Prem, as a win would do a lot for either of these teams. In La Liga, Barcelona is going to face off against Levante at 10:15. Taking a look at where Barcelona is, they're holding on to the 8th best record in La Liga, but a win here would shoot Barcelona back up into the top 5. That's the only big game going on in Spain. Taking a look at what's going on in Serie A, Juve is going to face off against Sampdoria. With a win here. Right now, Juventus is sitting at the middle of the table, so a win could possibly move them up to the middle of the table, as they did not have the best start to the season. And right now, that is everything that's going on with sports, at least the main headlines, the main exhibitions. And once all of today's exhibitions are done, I will come back tomorrow on Monday, September 27th for another episode of The Elite. So until then, I want to thank everyone for listening to all 77 minutes of this piece. I want to thank the MLB, FIFA, WNBA, NHL, college football websites for giving me what I needed. I, of course, apologize if I butchered on the names. I do plan on getting I plan on getting them right eventually. But with that said, I want to thank everyone for listening. I hope all is well. And once everything's done today, I'll come back tomorrow. And until then, just peace out. Thanks for listening to my piece. I'll catch you tomorrow.